Picture this. You're alone in the wilderness, no tent zipper, no fire, no weapon within reach, completely unconscious for 8 straight hours. And somewhere out there, a 300-pound predator with night vision, razor claws, and a sense of smell 1,000 times sharper than yours walks within 20 feet of your sleeping body and simply keeps walking. And once you understand why, you'll never look at a campsite the same way again. For most of human history, we slept exposed. No locked doors, no four walls, sometimes not even a fire that lasted till dawn. And yet here we are, 8 billion of us, descended from ancestors who spent millions of collective hours, unconscious, in landscapes crawling with lions, wolves, leopards, and bears. If predators were the mindless killing machines Hollywood loves to sell us, our species should have been wiped out before we ever invented agriculture. So the real question isn't whether predators could kill a sleeping human. Almost any apex predator physically could in seconds. The question is why, again and again across continents and centuries, they choose not to. And the answer has nothing to do with mercy, and everything to do with risk. Every predator alive today is the product of a brutal filtering process. The reckless ones died young. The cautious ones survived long enough to pass on their genes. A wolf doesn't get a cast for a broken leg. A mountain lion with an infected wound doesn't get antibiotics. In the wild, injury is very often a slow death sentence, which means evolution has spent millions of years building predators that are obsessive risk calculators first, and aggressive hunters second. They are not brave by nature. They are careful because carelessness gets you killed. So before any predator commits to an attack, its brain is running a constant cost-benefit analysis. How much energy will this take? How likely am I to get hurt? And how sure am I that this will actually work? A deer fits neatly into that calculation. Predators have hunted deer for thousands of generations. They know exactly how a deer moves, how it bolts, where its weak points are, and what it tastes like at the end of the chase. Humans do not fit that template at all, and that mismatch is precisely what keeps us alive. Start with the most basic clue: smell. Humans, even unwashed, sweaty, campfire smoke-covered humans, carry an odor profile that most large predators have learned to associate with danger rather than dinner. The smell of soap, of synthetic fabric, of cooked food residue, of an animal that simply doesn't belong in their normal prey database. Wolves and bears build internal menus through experience, and humans were never reliably on that menu the way rabbits or elk were, so the scent itself can trigger caution rather than appetite. Then there's the shape problem. Predators are extraordinarily good at reading silhouettes. It's how they instantly tell prey from rock, friend from threat, in a fraction of a second. But a sleeping human curled in a sleeping bag doesn't look like anything in their visual library. It's not the upright two-legged shape they associate with the most dangerous animal in the forest. And it's not the four-legged, low-profile shape of a deer or boar either. It's an ambiguous blob. And ambiguous to a predator's brain doesn't mean easy. It means unknown. And unknown is exactly the kind of thing evolution has taught them to avoid, investigating up close. Stillness adds another layer of confusion. Predators are wired to respond to motion, fleeing prey, twitching prey, prey that reacts to being noticed, because reaction confirms this is alive, this is edible, this follows the rules I know. A sleeping human gives off none of that. No flinch, no bolt, no change in breathing that signals fear. To a predator's threat detection system, the complete absence of a startle response isn't reassuring. It's deeply unsettling, because in nature, almost everything that doesn't react to a close approach is either already dead and possibly diseased, or it's something powerful enough that it has no reason to be afraid. And neither option looks appetizing. Now layer in something most people never think about. Humans don't smell, look, or sound like prey. Because for the overwhelming majority of the time predators and our ancestors have coexisted, we have been the apex threat in the equation, not the meal. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans hunted in groups, used fire, threw spears, and later carried guns. And animals learn generational caution fast. A wolf that approached a human campfire and got hit with a thrown rock, a torch, or worse, taught every wolf nearby a lesson, without a single word being spoken. Humans are not worth the risk. That caution gets passed down, sometimes culturally, within a pack or pride, sometimes just through natural selection, thinning out the bold individuals who tested us and lost. Over enough generations, avoid the upright ape, especially near fire and noise, becomes baked into a species' default behavior, even for animals that have personally never had a violent encounter with a person. This is why wildlife biologists describe healthy, wild predator populations as fundamentally human avoidant. Not docile, not friendly, just deeply unwilling to engage with something something their instincts flag as unpredictable and historically dangerous. Camp data backs this up in a way that should genuinely surprise you. Agencies like the National Park Service have tracked attacks on campers for decades, and the pattern that emerges is almost the opposite of what horror movies suggest. The vast majority of incidents do not happen to someone peacefully asleep in a tent at 2 a.m. Instead, they cluster around very specific, very human-caused scenarios. And once you see the categories, they stop looking random and start looking almost predictable. Category 1, food conditioning, and it's the single biggest predictor of dangerous encounters. When a bear learns that tents and backpacks sometimes contain easy calories, a dropped granola bar, an unwashed pan, food stored inside instead of properly hung or locked away, it isn't hunting a human at all. It's hunting the smell of food. That happens to be near a human, and the human becomes collateral damage. This breaks the animal's normal caution because food reward overrides fear faster than almost anything else in nature. A few successful raids, and that bear's risk calculation flips completely, which is exactly why park rangers obsess over bear canisters and food storage rules. They're not being overly cautious. They're cutting off the one thing that reliably erases a predator's natural wariness of us. Category 2, surprise and defense. Not predation at all. A hiker who startles a mother with cubs, who rounds a blind corner onto a resting cougar, or who gets between a large animal and what it perceives as an escape route, can trigger a defensive strike that has nothing to do with eating, and everything to do with the animal feeling cornered. These attacks tend to be short, brutal, and over quickly. The animal isn't trying to consume a meal, it's trying to neutralize an immediate threat. And once that threat feels removed, the animal typically disengages and leaves. Category 3, and genuinely the rarest, is true predatory behavior, usually from an individual animal that's old, sick, injured, or otherwise unable to hunt its normal prey efficiently, and even then, researchers note these animals tend to target moving, upright, active humans far more often than someone lying motionless on the ground, because movement is still the trigger that switches a predator's brain from investigate to pursue. Sleep itself adds one more layer of protection that most people never consider. A sleeping human breathes slowly and rhythmically, generates a relatively low, steady heat signature, and produces almost none of the chemical stress signals, adrenaline byproducts, sweat composition changes that predators have evolved to read as this is afraid, this is fleeing, this is prey actively trying to survive. Fear has a smell, in a very literal biochemical sense, and a person in deep sleep simply isn't producing it, which removes one of the strongest go signals in a predator's entire decision-making process. Researchers studying anti-predator sleep strategies across the animal kingdom have found something fascinating here too. Many prey species have evolved specialized partial sleep states specifically to stay safe while resting, from dolphins shutting down only half their brain at a time to birds catching micro naps mid-flight. And the existence of all these elaborate defenses tells you something important. Predators absolutely do hunt sleeping animals when the conditions are right, but humans, through a combination of size, smell, ambiguous silhouette, historical dominance, and the simple fact that we usually sleep in groups, near fire, inside shelters, have collectively fallen outside the profile that makes that hunt worthwhile, most of the time. None of this means you're invincible out there, and every park ranger, wildlife biologist, and search and rescue volunteer will tell you the same thing. The moment you remove the variables that protect you, sleeping alone instead of in a group, leaving food in your tent, camping in an area with food-conditioned animals, hiking at dawn or dusk through dense brush where surprise encounters happen, your risk profile changes immediately. Because you're no longer the ambiguous, unappetizing, historically dangerous creature predators have learned to avoid. You're now a specific, identifiable opportunity. So the next time you're lying in a tent at midnight, hearing branches snap somewhere out past the tree line, understand what's actually happening on the other side of that darkness. It's not that nothing is out there, and it's not that nothing notices you. It's that something almost certainly does notice you, stops, runs its own ancient risk calculation, and decides, generation after generation, encounter after encounter, that you are simply not worth the gamble. And that quiet, invisible truce, built over hundreds of thousands of years of mutual caution, is the real reason you wake up in the morning at all.